Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome to a brand new week. We're inching very close to the big May release coming at some point in May. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and thanks for joining me for week number 2 of the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. Hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed Game of Thrones last night. It's getting crazy, but if you are joining me live here on Behance this morning, or afternoon, let me know where you are, who you are, where you're tuning in from. I'm streaming live from Los Angeles this week, and we've got Hashpal and Pokey and Michael, and I've got, Michael's pointing out my groovy Adobe Max t-shirt. If you are going to Adobe Max this year, let me know. We have some great stuff coming up, and it's just around the corner. It's just a few months away. I can't wait to be back. So good morning to Anna and Jason and Cheryl. Cheryl shares a last name with my first name. Awesome. Lena and Anissa, welcome everyone. Awesome. Samuel's asking, what's Game of Thrones? I don't know if you're joking or not, but you need to get on that if you're not. It's going to be your 16th Max in a row. That's crazy, Anissa. That's awesome. All right. So week number 2 of the Adobe XD Daily Challenge is upon us. We tackled last week with a bunch of different challenges. Let me hop over to my screen. There I am over here. And we've got Michelle from Vietnam. That's awesome. Chad from Tampa. And awesome. So here's the Behance landing page, behance.net/daily creative challenge. And if you haven't pressed that big blue register button at the top, press the big blue register button at the top. That way you're notified when we release new challenges every single morning, except the weekends, at 8 o'clock Pacific time. So you're going to join me at 11 o'clock Pacific time to kind of kick off what that challenge is. I'm going to give you a little bit of inspiration, show you a few tips and tricks using Adobe XD, and then you're going to take what you've designed and prototyped and publish it on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. And you're using that keyword so I can hop into Behance over here, search it, sort by most recent, and just browse through the hundreds of entries you've all been releasing over the last week or so. It's been crazy. There's been a lot of cool stuff. And on Friday, this coming Friday, we're going to take a look at a lot of entries. We're going to go back. We're going to have a form in Discord. You'll be able to submit your favorite entry for the last 2 weeks, and we'll take a look at some of those. So you have also until April 29th, this coming Friday, to complete all the entries. But as I mentioned, pretty much every single day, it's not a competition. So if you need a few extra days to polish up your work, or even after you've published it, if you want to go back, make some changes, definitely do that. Potential clients will love that stuff. Down here, you're going to grab XD completely for free, and you're going to join us on Discord. So let me hop over to Discord. Here's our Discord channel. We've got about 2,300 people in here introducing themselves, letting us know what they do for a living, if they're a designer, if they're new to XD. We always love hearing that sort of stuff. Pokey's telling me to clear my notifications. I'm actually just kind of interested to see how high this goes. That's why I'm kind of leaving it there. Back to Discord, you can submit feedback, get feedback, ask questions, tips and tricks. There's a lot of interesting channels in here that we didn't have over in Slack. So there's, if you're just in Slack and not on Discord, definitely hop over here, introduce yourself, and, have a good time. Now, for the challenges, if we scroll down here, we started last Tuesday with a drop-down menu. And if you've been noticing, every single day we're kind of tackling a different interaction, different theme. We did last time and the time before a progressive challenge. We're definitely going to revisit that because we love those progressive challenges. But this time, mixing things up a little bit. So we started with the drop-down menu. We went to an upload file interaction, pagination, social share, and then today we are tackling a leaderboard. So your challenge is to design a leaderboard experience for mobile or web. Try using the pagination and social share. That's a tongue twister. Techniques from week number 1. All right, before I hop into there, I do want to give a shout out to Andrew Shorten, I think he's the Senior Director of Product Management at Adobe. He doesn't need a shout out, but I'm sending you over that way because our May update, a big update's coming out sometime in May. I can't tell you the exact date yet, but sometime in May. And Andrew's the king of sneaks. So he's been sneaking a few things. Some of them very clear sneaks. And so just three things so far that are coming in May. He's got more sneaks coming, I think, this week. So more text controls. You'll be able to uppercase, lowercase, sentence case, or I guess title case, strike through. Those are coming in May. We've got polygon tool with live corners coming in May as well. And we've got guides also coming in May. And those are just three of the features coming in May. There's a lot. I think there's three big ones that he's going to be announcing this week or next week. So go follow Andrew on Twitter. It's A_Shorten. He's got some good stuff, and May is just around the corner. I can't wait to reveal some of this stuff with all of you. So let me go ahead and hop over to Adobe XD, and here we go. Here's the template for today. And again, your challenge is to design a leaderboard experience for web or mobile, and an optional step is to use the pagination and social share experiences from last week. And I really encourage all of you to go crazy with some of these designs. If you're comfortable in Adobe XD and you feel creative one day, just go crazy with it. Do something really cool. Van Dam is asking if there will be video support in Adobe XD or GIF support. Yes, at some point there will be. The team is definitely, that's on their radar. They want to make sure it's done right, and that it doesn't slow down the overall application, because whenever you're importing GIFs or videos and things like that, there's always the chance that it slows things down. So yes, things are, Adrienne is asking about resizable symbols. Maybe. You'll have to wait and see. Go follow Andrew. All right, so as for the inspiration, we've got HQ Trivia. I'm a big fan of HQ. Duolingo and Candy Crush. Super addicting. I had to delete that off my phone. But we want to kind of do something to this extent. And today, because today is Earth Day, we're going to theme it Earth Day themed, whatever that might be. So here we go. We're going to begin. We've got about 25 minutes or so to get this done, maybe 20 minutes. We can definitely do it. So I'm going to grab my artboard over here, and I'm going to create, you can also start off with these templates right over here, but I'm going to create, let's say, an iPhone 6, 7, 8 Plus artboard right here, and we're going to start designing. We're going to get a little bit creative with this. We're going to go in a kind of a fun, earthy direction. Now, the first thing I want to do is add a background image. I'm a big fan of background images, even though sometimes I like minimalism. Let's go crazy with this one. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool, and I'm simply going to just draw out a rectangle across the entire artboard, just like that. Don't need a border. And the cool thing about XD, if you've never used it before, is any shape, including shapes created with the pen tool, can house images. So if I hop over here to Finder, I've got a bunch of background images that I grabbed from Adobe Stock, and of course you can grab them from Stock or anywhere else if you've made them your own using freeform gradients in Illustrator. You can definitely do that. So I've got this cool design here. I'm going to just drag this into Adobe XD and boop, pop it into place, and it just masks it. And if I need to adjust that mask, I can simply double click on it and I can just move it around just like that. But I was pretty happy with it right about there. I'll have some of that blue poking out on the right hand side, and when I click off, it applies that mask one more time. All right, so now there's a few things we want on this artboard to display the leaderboard. At the top, we'll probably have a little bit of filter. We'll have today, maybe the month, maybe all time. And then we'll have maybe the top contributors over here, like 1, 2, and 3. And then below, we'll have a much longer list. And we're going to use a repeat grid for that, which even though it came out on day number 1 of Adobe XD, repeat grids, still one of my favorite features. So this will be Earth Theme Day. So leave your suggestions in the chat below, but I'm thinking maybe there's like a competition of who picks up the most trash one day, and so we'll do something along those lines. So starting down at the bottom, we're going to create that big long list. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool one more time and simply draw out right across my document like this, a rectangle. And this will again house the longer list, probably from number 4 all the way down to however many things that are available. I'm going to round out the corners just to give it a little bit of style, just like that. Make sure it's centered in the middle of my document by moving it. You notice those smart guides are helping me out. And speaking of guides, guides are coming in Adobe XD, actual guides, which is great, coming in May. I'm going to turn off the border. Now, just to give it a little bit more style, I'm going to turn on background blur. And I know people give me a hard time sometimes for using too much background blur, but you know what? Boop, I'm doing it. And actually, the default looks pretty nice. It kind of blurs the background. You notice as I'm moving it around, it all renders in real time. And of course, you can make less of a blur or more of a blur if you wanted to. Turn up and down the brightness. and then turn up the transparency if you wanted it not so transparent. All right, so I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm kind of digging this. And then in the center, we want, or at least inside of this container, we actually want some content. So we want entries number 4 or participants number 4 down to whatever it might be. So I'm gonna start with my text tool over here and simply type out, let's go for number 4. I'm gonna make this a little bit larger just by dragging on that handle right below. Pop it right about there. All right. And beside that, we need a profile photo. So I'm going to draw out a circle with my ellipse, holding down Shift to constrain it. Pop it somewhere right about there, making sure everything lines up really nicely. Turn off the border. I'm going to make sure this is, let's say, 24 pixels from the left. And this will be, let's say, 18 pixels maybe, or 16 pixels if we're going with an 8 pixel grid. That looks good. Move this over here. This will be, I'll just type out Howard Pinsky for now. Make sure to left justify that. And perfect. Now, over on the right, we want 2 things. We want an icon and we want some sort of a value. So I'm going to just duplicate this over here. This will be right justified because I want a longer number. And I want it to make sure it stays on the right side. Again, 24 pixels from the right. We'll go just for an even 100 at the moment. And then beside that, we want some sort of an icon, and you can grab icons pretty much anywhere. There are some icons inside of this pack over in the template, but I'm gonna hop over to my trusty Nucleo application, and there's this cool little garbage icon, a little person throwing out garbage. I'm gonna drag that into XD. Pop that over here. Might want it a little bit smaller so it kind of lines up with the numbers. And because it is a border and stroke based icon, the border is changing as well, but I'm gonna drop that down to about 1 pixel. That might work. We'll see what that looks like. Change the border to white. Perfect. And maybe I wanna flip this one. So I'm just gonna press boop, that icon at the top, and now it is flipped. So it's kind of facing the number. Great. I'll put it about 8 pixels, 8.5, something like that. Okay, perfect. So now Kroll is asking, how do I get the Discord link? If you go to behance.net/dailycreativechallenge, you will find the link towards the bottom or towards the middle of the page. All right, so now that I've got all the information that I want inside of this entry, what I want to do is actually create a repeat grid. So I'm going to start by selecting all the elements that make up this entry. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click on all of them. And then I can either use the Command or Control R shortcut, or right over here to the right, I can press Repeat Grid. Boop, there we go. And it's hard to see, but it's going to add these 2 new handles, one at the right and one at the bottom. And that will allow you to just drag out additional entries, just like this. And let's go for this, and we can just space these out a little bit. Perfect. Move this whole thing down a touch, and maybe we'll make this a little bit smaller. Great. Now, obviously, this looks a little bit bonkers because obviously I didn't compete all these times and it doesn't look real, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to hop over to Finder and grab some assets. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to grab a bunch of images to use as profile photos. So, can't speak. Over here, I've got a bunch of headshots. I'm just going to grab a bunch of these. Doesn't matter how many, and if you don't have enough, it'll just repeat. If you do have enough, it'll mask the ones that you're not using and drag them right into any of these circles, and it automatically masks and populates throughout your repeat grid. And then you can always go in and just double click and increase just like that. Perfect. All right, so now with the text, there's a few things we can do. We can either go in and just, dive in, change this, let's say 6, 7, 8, 9, this will be 10. Oops, I cut it off because it's not left justified. Let me fix that. And the cool thing about repeat grids is that you can move one thing and edit one thing and it just changes it everywhere. And 11. So we could do that, but if you're working with a lot of text and maybe a lot of names, that's a time-consuming process. So back over in Finder, I have this text file. I actually have 2 text files. Hey, Sam, welcome. One of the XD designers is here. So I have this text file containing a bunch of generic names, mostly generic names. And I also have a text file with a bunch of numbers that I'm going to be using for the right side over here. So just like with images, I can grab the text file, the plain text file, drag it onto any of these, There we go. Now we've got a bunch of names. I can do the same thing for numbers. Perfect. And of course, even after that's done, you can always go in and let's say this does not look like Mohammed, so this is, let's say, Julia. And you can override those text layers. Perfect. So now that we've got kind of our bottom area, you can always go back. If I wanted to make, maybe this is a little bit too strong, I can just decrease the opacity a little bit. Perfect. That's looking pretty good. All right, so now we've got our bottom area. Let's start working on the top. And what we're going to do two things. We're going to add some sort of filter at the top for today, month, and all time. And then we're also going to add some the winners, number 1, 2, and 3. So with my ellipse, Siri's talking to me. What is Siri saying to me? I don't know.
Did you accidentally summon me?
Did you hear that? Siri asked if I accidentally summoned her. I did not, Siri, but thank you. All right, so I'm going to drag an ellipse just like this, make sure it's centered in the middle of my document. The joys of live streaming. Siri just randomly talks to you. All right, so there's going to be one circle. I'm going to make another one a little bit smaller because number 1 will be in the middle. Number 2 will be somewhere around here. Let's go for 24 pixels again. And then number 3, perfect. Somewhere right about there. Again, we need, because it's not a repeat grid, we're going to do these manually. So this will be number 2. We'll put this one as number 1 and this as number 3. Come on, there we go, 3. Double click, make sure to adjust these to make it look great. All right, so now that we need to indicate which one is the winner, which one is number 1, 2, and 3. So maybe at the top, we'll put more ellipses. You can never have too many ellipses. So this will be for number 1. Pop that about there. Turn off the border. This will be for number 2, make it a little bit smaller to match the circle. And number 3 over here. I also want to make sure to keep all this stuff grouped. So this will be 1. Group this. This will be 2. This will be 3. Great. And then finally underneath, we want some text. So we want a name. Someone give me a name. I'm just going to pick a name from the chat. This will be, I'll go for Adrian. There we go. So Adrian is our winner. Perfect. And then we need a name. I'm going to copy this, paste it over here. We need a name for person number 2. I will go for Carlos. I'm just grabbing names from the chat. There we go. There's Carlos. And we need a name for number 3. Who else is in chat? Who is in chat? I need a female. Natasha. Perfect. Arya Stark. Yes, I should have done Arya Stark. All right. Great. That's looking good. I'm going to move these down just a little bit. And right underneath it, we might also want, let me hop back in here, the winner, maybe this will be centered. And the winner will have planted or thrown away, let's say, how many pieces? So let's go for 134 pieces. And Natasha will be, she's 3rd place, so that'll be, let's say, 106. And then finally, we've got Carlos over here. Make sure that's centered. And this will, he's in 2nd place, so this will be 100 and let's go for 110. Perfect. And just to separate some of this stuff, we can maybe bold the names just like this. Just make some little tweaks here and there. Whoops. Great. All right, and then finally we need some filters at the top. So one more time, I'm gonna grab my text tool, and this will be, let's say, today. I wanna make this nice and large, and definitely wanna make this bold, just so we know that we are on the today link, or at least the today view. We're gonna make it really large, really bold, really large. And then we might want, let's say, month. Now, obviously we don't want this as big. We want this a little bit smaller. And we might want to drop that down from, let's say, bold to maybe semi-bold or medium. Medium looks okay. And we may even consider dropping the opacity as well, just to really let people know that they can click on month and go to that view. 50% looks okay. Make sure it's lined up, and eventually guides will be in XD so we can make these lines much nicer. That should be, oh, it's not 24. All right, that's 24 now. And then month, and we'll do over here all time. Make sure that's perfect. 26, well, there's 24 now. And make sure all this stuff lines up perfectly. Alrighty, so now we're going to go back and make a few tweaks. I'm going to make sure that this is kind of in the middle of both of these. We also need to add some color to these little circles. So, because we're kind of going with an earthy green theme, we don't want to make it too much of the same color as the background, but let's play around with some colors and see what works. Maybe a red kind of works. It kind of blends in with the green. It doesn't really work really well. Orange isn't too bad. Maybe we'll go with an orange for number 1. That looks pretty good. And then number 2, we could go with this blue over here. We could also use our eyedropper tool and just sample this blue here. That looks okay, that might work. And then over here, we might want to go with, let's go for maybe a purplish pink. Or a red. No, maybe. You know what? We can also sample this blue over here. All right, perfect. So now inside, we also have to go back and add some numbers. Let's go for first. Make this nice and bold. Drop this down a little bit. All right. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Andrew did confirm in one of his replies that subscript and superscript are not going to be in May, but they're going to be shortly behind. So that'll help for things like this, which is great. So that'll be first. We'll go over here. This will be second. It's a little bit too big. You know what? Let's just stick with numbers. Plain old numbers. We're keeping it simple. And jumping in here, this will be 3. Alrighty. Make sure it lines up in the middle. It sort of does, it sort of doesn't. I'll finesse it afterwards. But there we go. So we've got our leaderboard for this Earth Day throwing away trash challenge, whatever you might want to call it. We've created down here at the bottom this larger leaderboard with a bunch of profile images using repeat grid. There's my dock that popped up. There we go. Hide that. We also use an image, a rectangle in the background with a background blur just to give it a little bit of, you know, fun flair. Then we also went into Finder and grabbed a bunch of images, including also text files, dragged those directly into Adobe XD to populate the profile photos, the text, all that fun stuff. And then at the top here, we kind of made some additional tweaks. So we have the winner, we have number 2, number 3, and then we have the filter at the top. And then as you're designing some of this stuff, I definitely encourage you to explore what it would look like once you change from today to month, how all this stuff changes, because let me very quickly, I can show you how the text would change. So if this was today, we have, let's say, we can copy this, we can paste the appearance, copy this, paste the appearance, drop that down, make sure this is the same as it was before. And then once you actually animate this thing, if I hop into prototype mode, select month, drag this over, we'll make sure it's tap, auto animate, ease in and out, and point, let's say 0.4. So when you play it, you now press on month, that one gets larger and you can wire up today back over here. And you can cycle back and forth between these two views. And then of course, I would love to see what you all come up with when it comes to actually what it looks like when you change views from today to month to all time. Do things animate? Do they just slide over, slide left or right, whatever it might be? But that will just about do it for day number 5 of the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. Definitely head over to Behance, behance.net/daily creative challenge. Grab the template, hop into Discord, post your current work in progress. Then once you're all finished, pop it on Behance. You can embed the working prototype if you do decide to go in that direction. And tomorrow morning, we'll be back with day number 6. And then on Friday, we're going to take a look at a lot of your entries that have come in over the last few weeks, or 2 weeks, I guess. So that'll be it. So thanks so much for joining me this morning. Get designing, have fun with it, get super creative. Maybe even if it's Earth Day themed, I'll take an extra look at it tomorrow. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.